Okay, here's a statistic for you. Did you know that nearly 80% of smartphone owners check their device within like 15 minutes of waking up?
Wow, that quickly.
Yeah. Or how about this one? A full one-third of Americans said they'd rather give up sex than lose their cell phone.
That's saying something.
It really is mind-bending when you think about it. So why? Why are we so incredibly drawn to these digital things, sometimes feeling almost compelled to check them? What's going on there?
That's a fantastic question, and it really gets right to the heart of it. Our actions, especially online, well, they've often been intentionally designed, you could say.
Designed how?
Well, cognitive psychologists define habits as these automatic behaviors triggered by situational cues, stuff we do with very little, or sometimes, conscious thought.
Right. Like driving home and not remembering the journey.
Exactly. And it's true. A significant number of the products you interact with every single day are specifically built to turn your actions into those very habits.
And that's our deep dive for today. We're going to unpack Nir Eyal's a hook model. It's basically this four-phase process: trigger, action, variable reward, and investment that companies use to, keep us coming back again and again.
Yeah.
Often without needing loads of expensive ads.
That's the goal.
So our mission here is to pull back the curtain on this model. We want to reveal how it works and, shed some light on these hidden forces that are shaping our digital lives.
Absolutely.
We all kind of know habits are powerful. I mean, the author of one of our sources told this funny story about saying good morning to someone in the evening.
Oh, really? Just out of habit?
Yeah, or accidentally shaving at the wrong time.
Yeah.
It just shows how these behaviors become automatic, right? Guiding almost half of what we do each day.
That's a huge chunk of our lives running on autopilot.
So from a business angle, what makes this automaticity, this ingrained behavior so incredibly valuable?
That's a great lead-in because it points to something we call the habit zone.
The habit zone, yeah.
For a behavior to really become a routine, like a true habit, it needs two things. It has to happen often enough, so frequency. And crucially, users have to see it as genuinely useful. Perceived utility. When a product hits that sweet spot, the business benefits are pretty profound.
Like what?
Well, first off, there's a massive boost in customer lifetime value, or CLTV.
Right. How much a customer is worth over time.
Exactly. The longer and more often customers use a product, the higher their value to the company. Think about credit card companies. They spend a lot to get you to sign up.
They definitely do. All those points and bonuses.
Right, because they're banking on that long-term, high CLTV. They know once you're in the habit of using their card, you'll likely stick around for years.
So it's not just about getting you in the door. It's about making you stay.
Yeah.
Building that stickiness.
Precisely. And once you have that stickiness, it leads to the second benefit. Pricing flexibility.
Ah, so you can charge more.
Essentially, yes. People like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who are, masters at understanding business value, they notice this. As users form routines around a product, they become, remarkably less sensitive to price increases.
Yep.
Think about See's Candies or Coca-Cola, companies Buffett famously invested in. Once you're kind of hooked, a small price bump probably isn't going to make you jump ship.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't stop drinking Coke over a few cents.
Exactly. And we see this with the freemium model, too. Games like Candy Crush Saga are free to start.
Very addictive.
Right. But once players are really into it, they're much more willing to buy virtual items to keep going. Or look at Evernote, the note-taking app. They shared this thing called a smile graph.
A smile graph.
Yeah, it showed that after 42 months, so quite a long time, a remarkable 26% of users were paying for something they initially got for free.
Wow, 26%. That's huge conversion from a free base. Yeah. Especially after years.
It really illustrates how habit translates directly into, monetization. It just keeps going up with use.
Okay, so higher value, more pricing power. What else?
Next up is supercharged growth.
How does habit help with growth?
Well, frequent use naturally leads to more sharing, more word of mouth. We call it the more is more principle. People who use a product daily are just inherently more likely to talk about it or invite others.
Makes sense. You're using it, you talk about it.
Exactly. Venture capitalist David Skock talked about something called viral cycle time, basically how long it takes one user to invite another. He showed this amazing example. If you could just have that cycle time, say from 2 days down to 1 day, the growth becomes exponential. You could go from maybe 20,000 users to 20 million users in just 20 days. It's all about shortening that lumen. daily users just share more often, creating this accelerating feedback loop.
20,000 to 20 million. That's incredible.
It shows the power of frequent engagement.
Yeah.
And finally, building habits gives companies a really sharpened competitive edge.
Right. Makes them harder to beat.
It really does. I mean, think about it. How do you even begin to challenge a product that someone uses every single day as part of their routine?
Yeah, it's like trying to get someone to switch toothpaste brands they've used for years.
Exactly. Products that change routines become incredibly resistant to rivals. John Gorville, a Harvard professor, famously argued that new products need to be, like, 9 times better to break existing habits.
9 times? That's a high bar.
It is. Old habits, they truly die hard. The QWERTY keyboard is the classic example, right? We all know there are technically better, more efficient layouts like Dvorak.
But nobody uses them.
Because the cost of switching, of relearning, is just way too high for most people. The habit is too ingrained.
You mentioned something else.
Yeah.
Stored value.
Yes, that's another layer of defense. Users increase their dependency by storing value in the product. Think about all your emails stored in Gmail.
Oh, yeah. 1,000.
Or your followers on Twitter, or all those photos and memories on Instagram. This stored value discourages switching because you can't easily take it with you. It literally makes the product better and more indispensable the more you use it.
So if a product hooks you, it builds this powerful moat around itself. Okay, so the core idea here, it seems, is this transformation. A product might start out feeling like a vitamin, a nice to have, offer some benefit.
Right.
But once that habit gets established, it becomes a painkiller.
Well,
It's suddenly a must-have. It provides ongoing relief for some kind of underlying psychological itch or discomfort.
that's a perfect summary. And that transformation is incredibly powerful for a business.
Okay, let's unpack this hook model then. The very first phase you mentioned is the trigger. What exactly is a trigger, and how does it kick everything off?
Right, the trigger. Think of it as the actuator of behavior. It's the spark plug, the thing that gets the engine going. And we generally talk about 2 main types.
Okay.
First, you have external triggers. These are things in your environment, sensory stimuli that tell you what to do next, sometimes explicitly.
Like a notification sound.
Exactly. Or think of a Coca-Cola vending machine with a big, thirsty prompt on it that's explicitly telling you, hey, insert money. Or an email from, say, Mint.com with a giant log into Mint button.
Gotcha. Obvious calls to action.
Right. And then there are implicit external triggers, things we've just learned to respond to, like seeing a website link,
Yeah.
click it.
Or
Or seeing an app icon, you automatically tap it. A key thing here. Reducing choices often makes people more likely to actually do the thing. Keep it simple.
Okay, so those are the outside signals. But then you have the internal triggers. Those feel a bit more mysterious, maybe.
They absolutely can feel that way, and honestly, they're often the more powerful drivers in the long run. Internal triggers aren't sensory cues from outside. They pop up automatically in your mind.
Like a thought or a feeling.
Exactly, a thought, an emotion, maybe even just a pre-existing routine. And what's particularly potent here is how negative emotions can act as really strong internal triggers.
Negative emotions.
Yeah.
Like stress.
Stress, boredom, loneliness, frustration, uncertainty. Even FOMO, the fear of missing out on something important or special moment. These feelings create an itch, and they prompt us to seek relief, often subconsciously.
So you feel bored, you instinctively reach for your phone to scroll social media.
Precisely. There was a study, I think at Missouri University, that found students feeling depressed tended to use the internet more, watching videos, gaming, chatting. The hypothesis was they were trying to alleviate those negative feelings. You feel that itch, and you grab for a digital scratch.
And I imagine a huge challenge for product designers is figuring out what those subtle internal triggers are, especially if users themselves aren't even consciously aware of them. How do you find what people don't know they're looking for?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? One really effective technique is called the 5 whys method. It's adapted from the Toyota production system, actually.
Okay, how did that work?
You basically just keep asking why repeatedly to drill down from what a user says they want to the underlying emotion driving it. So let's take an example, maybe Julie, and why she uses email so much.
Yeah, okay.
You'd start, why does Julie use email? Oh, to send messages. Okay. Why does she need to send messages? To share info quickly. Why quickly? So she knows what's going on with her coworkers. Okay, why does she need to know what's going on? Well, to know if someone needs her. And one more. Why does she care if someone needs her? And maybe she finally says, because I'm afraid of being out of the loop.
So you get from sending messages down to fear of being out of the loop.
Exactly. That fear, that's the powerful, often hidden internal trigger. And identifying that is gold for a product designer.
That's brilliant. So the ultimate goal for these products is to shift users away from needing those obvious external pings
Right.
and get them acting based on their own internal feelings, their own cues, because that's when the habit really takes root.
Precisely. That's the transition you're aiming for.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. So we've got a trigger, external or internal. But what actually makes us do the thing? What drives the action itself?
Yeah.
Can't just be seeing the prompt, right?
Not at all. And this is where Dr. B.J. Fogg's behavior model is super helpful. He boils it down to an equation. B equals M at T.
B equals MAT.
Yeah. Behavior B happens when motivation M, ability A, and a trigger T are all present at the same time and in sufficient degrees.
Motivation, ability, trigger. All three have to be there.
All three. Think about your phone ringing. That's the trigger. But if you lack the motivation, maybe you just don't want to talk to anyone right now.
Been there.
Or you lack the ability, maybe your phone is buried under a pile of laundry across the room.
Also been there.
Or maybe the trigger itself is missing because the ringer's silenced. If any one of those is missing or too low, you won't answer the phone. The behavior doesn't happen. All three need to line up.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's break down M&A a bit more. Motivation.
Yeah.
What drives that?
Fogg defines motivation pretty simply as the energy for action. And he identifies three core motivators that he argues underlie basically all human behavior.
Okay, what are they?
First, seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Pretty fundamental. Second, seeking hope and avoiding fear. And third, seeking social acceptance and avoiding social rejection.
Pleasure, pain, hope, fear, acceptance, rejection.
Yep. Advertising is full of examples. Think about Barack Obama's famous Hope poster from '08. That directly tapped into that core motivator of seeking hope.
Right, powerful image.
Or, on the flip side, think about a motorcycle helmet ad that shows maybe a disabled person saying something like, "Didn't wear an helmet because I thought it looked stupid." That uses fear pretty powerfully to motivate wearing one.
Yeah, very visceral. Okay, so that's motivation. What about ability? You said earlier innovation is often about making things easier.
Absolutely. It's often overlooked, but simplicity is key. Dennis Hopley wrote in his book, Something Really New, that real innovation is about understanding why people use something, listing out all the steps they take, and then just removing steps. Cut them out until it's as simple as possible.
Fewer steps equals more action.
Exactly. Look at the history of creating content online. Early days. Web 1.0, very few people actually created stuff. It was complicated.
Needed to know HTML and FTP and all that.
Right. Then blogging platforms came along, like Blogger. They simplified it massively by removing the need for your own domain, web hosting. Evan Williams, who co-founded Blogger and Twitter, basically said his approach was always take a human desire and use modern tech to take out steps.
Interesting.
Twitter took it even further with the 140-character limit. Sounds restrictive, but it dramatically increased the ease of sharing a thought.
True. Much easier than writing a whole blog post.
And now you have things like Instagram or TikTok. Snapping a photo or short video and sharing it across networks is almost instantaneous. Each innovation radically increased the ability for normal people to create and share.
So Fogg talks about these 6 elements of simplicity that affect ability, things like time, money, physical effort, brain cycles needed, social deviance, meaning how accepted the behavior is, and non-routine, how familiar it is. And the key takeaway seems to be that designers should focus on simplifying whatever the user's scarcest resource is at that moment. Time, make it faster. Money, make it cheaper. Brain cycles, make it less mentally taxing.
Precisely. And you see companies mastering this everywhere.
Could you give us an example? How have companies really nailed simplifying the action phase?
Oh, definitely. Think about Facebook login. Instead of creating new accounts everywhere, you click one button. Boom, multiple steps eliminated across tons of sites.
Super convenient.
Or the Twitter button on websites, one click to share an article, reduces the cognitive load massively compared to copy-pasting a link.
Yeah.
Google search itself, its dominance wasn't just the algorithm. It was the super clean homepage, the auto-correction, the predictive results, all minimizing the time and mental effort to find info.
True. It feels effortless.
The Apple iPhone camera. Being able to launch it right from the lock screen, that makes capturing a spontaneous moment almost instantaneous. It gave them a kind of virtual monopoly on that quick capture behavior.
Yeah, you don't miss the moment fiddling with apps.
And Pinterest's infinite scroll. No clicking next page, no waiting. You just keep scrolling, browsing continuously. It removes friction and keeps you engaged. It's all about making that desired action utterly frictionless.
Okay, so if you're designing a product aiming for habit formation, what's the priority? Should you focus on boosting user motivation first or making the action easier, increasing ability?
That's a great practical question. And generally, especially for tech solutions, the biggest bang for your buck comes from increasing ability first.
Really, not motivation.
Making an action simpler, easier, faster. That's often far more effective and, frankly, less costly than constantly trying to pump up someone's desire or motivation. Motivation can be fickle. Ability is more controllable from a design perspective.
Can you give an example of that shift?
Twitter's homepage evolution is a perfect case study. Back in, say, 2009, it was pretty cluttered. Lots of text trying to explain and motivate you, broadcast your activities, things like that.
Right, trying to convince you.
But by 2012, it was radically simplified. Big focus on just two buttons, sign in or sign up. They shifted from trying to boost motivation to maximizing ability, making that first crucial action as easy as humanly possible.
And that worked better.
Apparently, yes. They learned that getting users to experience the service quickly by lowering the barrier to entry yielded much better results than just telling them why they should want it. Simplify the ability, and often the motivation takes care of itself once they see the value.
That's fascinating. So make it easy first. But, okay, beyond just making things easy, our brains have these quirks, right? These mental shortcuts or biases that designers can tap into.
Oh, absolutely. Heuristics, we use them constantly, often without realizing it, to make quick decisions. And yes, they can be leveraged.
What are some of the big ones you see used effectively?
Well, one classic is the scarcity effect. We just tend to value things more when they seem rare or limited.
Like limited edition sneakers.
Exactly. Or remember that cookie study from 1975? Researchers put identical cookies in two jars. One jar was full, the other had only 2 cookies left. People rated the cookies from the nearly empty jar as significantly more desirable and valuable.
Just because there were fewer of them.
Yep, you see this online all the time. Only 3 left in stock. Or offer ends midnight. It creates urgency and boosts perceived value.
Okay, scarcity. What else?
Another really powerful one is the framing effect. How information is presented, the frame around it dramatically changes how we perceive it.
Can you give an example?
The famous Joshua Bell story. He's a world-class violinist, plays a priceless Stradivarius. He once played for free in a Washington, D.C. subway station during rush hour.
How did that go?
Barely anyone stopped. People rushed by, mostly ignored him. But when he plays in a concert hall, people pay hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars for a ticket and rave about his genius.
Wow. Same musician, same music.
Radically different perception just because of the frame subway station versus concert hall. There was also a wine study where people literally reported getting more pleasure and their brain scans showed it. From drinking wine they thought was expensive, even when it was the exact same cheap wine they'd tasted earlier labeled with a lower price.
That's wild. So the context literally changes the experience in our brains.
It seems so. Then there's the anchoring effect. We tend to rely too heavily on the first piece of information offered the anchor when making decisions.
Like seeing the original price crossed out on a sale item.
Exactly, that original price becomes the anchor. Even if a different non-discounted item is actually cheaper per unit, we might perceive the discounted one as a better deal because we're anchored to that 30% off message.
Okay, that makes sense. Scarcity, framing, anchoring.
Yeah.
Any others?
One more big one is the endowed progress effect. We're more motivated to complete a task if we feel like we've already made some progress towards it.
Ah, like loyalty cards.
Precisely. The classic study involved car wash punch cards. One group got a blank card needing 8 punches. Another group got a 10-punch card, but with 2 punches already marked off for free.
So both needed 8 more washes.
Right. But the group that started with the 2 free punches, they had an 82% higher completion rate. Just feeling like they were already partway there made a huge difference.
82% higher. Just 2 free stamps.
Yep. LinkedIn uses this brilliantly with its profile completion bar. Seeing that bar partway full, even when you've just signed up, motivates you to add more information to get it to 100%. It leverages that desire for completion.
Okay, so we've been triggered. We've taken an action made easier by design and maybe influenced by these heuristics. But what actually keeps us coming back? What's the hook that pulls us in again and again? That's the variable reward part, right? And it sounds like it taps into something deep.
It really does. This is where the neuroscience gets fascinating. Researchers like James Olds and Peter Milner discovered something crucial way back. It's often the anticipation of a reward, not just getting the reward itself, that powerfully activates a key part of our brain called the nucleus accumbens.
The nucleus accumbens.
Yeah, it's heavily involved in dopamine pathways, motivation, and craving. It's the wanting, the seeking that really drives us. Predictability, however, tends to dampen this excitement.
How so?
Think about a baby playing peekaboo, or maybe with a dog. At first, it's super exciting because it's unpredictable. But once the baby figures out the pattern, or the dog's behavior becomes totally predictable, the intense interest fades. To hold our attention long-term, products need to maintain some level of ongoing novelty and unpredictability.
That sounds a lot like those famous experiments by B.F. Skinner with the pigeons.
It's the exact same principle. Skinner found that pigeons would peck a lever much more frequently and persistently if the food reward came intermittently, unpredictably, compared to when they got a pellet every single time. That variability is key.
So variable rewards are basically like a slot machine for our brain, keeping us engaged.
That's a common analogy, yeah. It fuels that compulsive drive to check email, scroll social media feeds, play games. You never know exactly what you'll get, and that keeps you pulling the lever, so to speak. These rewards usually fall into three main types in habit-forming products.
Okay, what are the types?
First, there are rewards of the tribe. These tap into our deep-seated human need for social connection, acceptance, feeling important, being part of a group.
Like getting likes on Facebook.
Exactly. Likes, comments, shares on Facebook or Instagram. Or think about Stack Overflow, the Q&A site for programmers. Getting your answer upvoted, earning badges, that confers status and respect within that community. It's a powerful tribal reward.
So it's about social validation.
It is. Even games use it. League of Legends had issues with toxic players, so they introduced honor points, basically rewarding sportsmanlike conduct with social recognition from other players. The uncertainty of what kind of social feedback you'll get, or if you'll get any, is incredibly compelling.
Okay, rewards of the tribe. What's the second type?
The second type is rewards of the hunt. This connects back to our evolutionary past, our drive to search for resources, information, food.
Like hunting for bargains online.
That's one modern example. Our ancestors were persistence hunters, literally chasing animals until they tired out. Today, that translates more often into the hunt for information. Think about scrolling through your Twitter feed or your Facebook news feed or TikTok.
The endless scroll?
Exactly. Or Pinterest, with those images often cut off just enough to make you want to click or scroll more to see the whole thing. You never know what valuable nugget of information, interesting article, funny video, or cool image you'll uncover next. That anticipation of the find keeps you hunting.
Okay, so tribe is social, hunt is information or resources. What's the third one?
The third is rewards of the self. These are more intrinsic, personal forms of gratification. The feeling of mastery, competence, control, completing a task.
Like finishing a level in a video game.
Perfect example. Leveling up in games like World of Warcraft, unlocking new skills or powers, that's a reward of the self.
Yeah.
Or think about the satisfaction of achieving inbox 0 in your email.
Oh yeah, that feels good. For the 5 minutes it lasts.
Right. Some apps, like the old Mailbox app, even turned email management into a game, tapping directly into that desire for completion and control. Or learning platforms like Codecademy. They give you instant feedback, progressive challenges. You feel yourself getting better, mastering coding concepts. That feeling of competence is its own reward.
Tribe, hunt, self. Okay, but surely companies can't just, sprinkle random rewards everywhere and expect it to work. There must be more to designing these effectively.
Oh, absolutely not. It's much more nuanced. A huge point is that variable rewards are not a free pass. They have to be aligned with the user's actual needs and the core purpose of the product.
What do you mean?
Well, there was a Q&A site called Mahalo.com. They tried offering monetary rewards for answering questions, but it totally failed to gain traction compared to, say, Quora, which only offered social rewards, upvotes, comments, status.
Why did money fail? People like money.
Because the monetary reward didn't really align with why people were contributing to a Q&A site. They weren't primarily there to earn pocket change. They were likely driven by social validation, intellectual curiosity, or a desire to help rewards of the tribe and self. If they just wanted money, there were better ways to earn it. Gamification only works if it enhances the core experience and scratches a real itch. If the reward feels tacked on or irrelevant to the user's intrinsic motivation, it won't build a habit.
So the reward has to fake the reason the user is there in the first place. Makes sense. What else?
Another critical factor is to maintain a sense of autonomy. Users have to feel like they are in control and are choosing to engage. They can't feel coerced or manipulated.
Right, nobody likes feeling forced.
Exactly. Quora actually learned this the hard way again. They rolled out a views feature that automatically showed everyone how many people had viewed their answers and, crucially, opted everyone in by default, sometimes revealing browsing history. Users felt their choice and privacy were violated, and there was a huge backlash.
Ouch.
There's a fascinating study from France about asking people for bus fare. When researchers simply added the phrase, "but you are free to accept or refuse," at the end of their request, compliance doubled. Just reaffirming the person's autonomy, their freedom to choose, disarmed their natural resistance. Psychologists call it reactance.
But you are free. That's
So right
powerful.
It really is. Think about fitness apps. Something like MyFitnessPal requires users to adopt a totally new, sometimes tedious behavior, logging every calorie. For some, that feels like a chore, lacking autonomy. Compare that to Photocracy, which tapped into users' existing desire for social connection and gym-like encouragement. It felt more intrinsically motivated, more chosen. People must want to use the service, not feel they have to.
Okay, so align rewards with motivation and maintain user autonomy. What about keeping the rewards interesting over time? Can the magic wear off?
Definitely. That's the challenge of finite variability. Some experiences just naturally run out of surprises.
Like watching a TV series.
Exactly. A show like Breaking Bad is amazing, but once you've watched it, the core mystery and suspense are gone. Rewatching isn't the same. Many single-player video games or those early Zynga games like Farmville eventually became predictable once you figured out the mechanics or exhausted the content. They become less compelling because the variability is finite. They need constant updates and new content to stay fresh.
So what's the alternative?
Infinite variability. These are products or experiences where the novelty doesn't run out, often because the variability comes from other people or unpredictable systems.
Like multiplayer games.
Multiplayer games like World of Warcraft, definitely, or platforms driven by user-generated content, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Dribbble for designers. The content is always new because it's constantly being created and shared by millions of other users. The social interactions themselves are inherently unpredictable. That infinite stream of novelty is what keeps people hooked long-term.
Okay, so that covers the trigger, the action, and the variable reward. We're hooked. We keep coming back for that unpredictable hit. What's the final piece? You called it investment. What does that mean?
Right, the investment phase. This is where the user actually puts something into the product or service. It could be their time, their data, effort, social capital, like building a following, or even money.
But wait, isn't that part of the action? Or the reward?
That's a common confusion. The key difference is the timing and intent. The investment phase happens after the reward. And the user isn't doing it for immediate gratification, like getting or finding a cool article. Instead, the investment is about loading the next trigger and increasing the likelihood of them coming back again in the future. It strengthens their ties to the product over time.
How does putting effort in make you more likely to come back? That seems counterintuitive.
It taps into some deep psychology. One effect is what Nir Eyal calls the IKEA effect.
Ah, because you value that frustrating to build bookshelf more.
Exactly. Eyal did studies with origami. People who painstakingly folded their own, often pretty mediocre, paper cranes valued them 5 times higher than identical, better-made cranes folded by experts. Why? Because they'd invested their own effort into making them. That effort increases perceived value, irrationally so. We value our own labor.
Huh. So struggling with that IKEA dresser makes me love it more.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds weird, but yes. And there are other tendencies at play, too. First, we seek to be consistent with our past behaviors. We like to see ourselves as consistent people.
How does that work?
There was a classic study with yard signs. Researchers asked residents in a neighborhood to put a tiny, unobtrusive, "Be a safe driver" sign in their window. Most agreed. Then, 2 weeks later, they asked the same residents to put a huge, ugly, "Drive carefully" billboard on their front lawn.
That seems like a big ask.
It was. But the residents who had agreed to the small sign first were far, far more likely to agree to the giant, unsightly one later, compared to a control group asked cold. That small initial investment, that tiny act of consistency, made them more open to the larger commitment later. Small investments paved the way for bigger ones.
Wow. So agreeing to the little thing changes how you see yourself.
It seems to prime you, yes.
Right.
And second, We strive to avoid cognitive dissonance. That's the mental discomfort we feel when we hold conflicting beliefs or when our actions contradict our beliefs.
Like buyer's remorse.
Sort of. The classic example is Aesop's fable, the fox and the grapes. The fox can't reach the delicious-looking grapes, right? So to reduce the dissonance between I want those grapes and I can't get them, he changes his perception. They're probably sour anyway. He rationalizes to feel better.
Okay.
You do this all the time. Think about acquiring a taste for something like beer or coffee or spicy food. Our bodies might initially reject it, but we see others enjoying it, we invest time and effort in trying it, and eventually we often change our perception to match our behavior and the social norm. We rationalize liking it to avoid feeling foolish or out of step.
So how does this rationalization connect to digital products? If I spend hours on a game,
Then you need to justify that time. Game designer Jesse Schell talked about players of games like Mafia Wars. They'd sink hours and maybe even some real money into it. Then they'd think, subconsciously perhaps, wow, I spent all this time and money on this game. It must be valuable. Only an idiot would spend so much on something worthless. That desire to avoid feeling like an idiot, to rationalize the past investment of time and effort, drives continued engagement and even further investment. It keeps the cycle going.
okay, so effort makes us value things more and rationalize sticking with them. What kinds of things are we investing in these digital products that become this stored value you mentioned?
Great question. There are several types of stored value that make the product genuinely better for you the more you use it. One big one is content.
Like my photos on Instagram.
Exactly. Every song you add to your Spotify library, every playlist you create, every status update, like, photo or video you share on Facebook, every document you save in Dropbox. All that content builds a personal history, a digital collection. It makes the service inherently more valuable to you over time and much harder to leave behind.
Yeah, switching music platforms after years would be a nightmare. Okay, content. What else?
Data. Users provide data, either actively or passively. Think about LinkedIn. The more information you add to your profile, skills, experience, connections, the more useful the platform becomes for networking and job searching. That profile completion bar we talked about, it's encouraging you to invest data.
Right, making the service better for me by adding my info.
Or a service like Mint.com for personal finance. Linking your bank accounts, categorizing transactions, that's investing data. The more data you provide, the more personalized insights Mint can offer, increasing its utility and, crucially, your dependence on it. Leaving means losing all that curated financial history.
Okay, so content and data are major forms of investment that store value.
Yeah.
And you said the timing is key. This investment phase comes after the variable reward.
Yes, that's crucial. You just got a little dopamine hit from the reward, notification, new content, whatever. You're feeling good about the service. Then it prompts you to invest, maybe ask you to invite friends, categorize a transaction, add a skill, upload a photo. Coming after the reward, it leverages our natural tendency to reciprocate the service. Gave you something nice, now you do a little something for it. And perhaps more importantly, it reinforces the user's belief that the service will actually get better with their personal input. It cements that connection and loads the trigger for the next cycle.
It really is a cycle, isn't it? Okay, let's try and recap the whole hook model. It starts with a trigger, internal or external, that prompts an action. That action needs to be easy, so high ability, and we need enough motivation. The action then leads to a variable reward, something unpredictable from the tribe, the hunt, or the self, which creates that craving, that itch to come back.
Right, that anticipation.
And finally, after the reward, we make an investment time, data, effort, content, which loads the next trigger, stores value, and makes us more likely to go through the cycle again, often because of things like the IKEA effect or cognitive dissonance.
You've got it. Those 4 phases, trigger, action, variable reward, investment, working together in a continuous loop. That's how these powerful, often unconscious habits get built, shaping so much of how we interact with technology every day, from checking social media constantly to relying on productivity apps. It really is a complete blueprint. And what's truly fascinating, and maybe a little unsettling, is the dual nature here. Understood and used ethically, this model is like a superpower. It really can be used for good, helping people build positive habits, maybe learn a new language, exercise more, save money, stay connected with family.
Right, it's not inherently bad.
Not at all. But like any powerful tool, it absolutely carries the potential for manipulation if it's used irresponsibly or without thinking about the user's well-being. It can definitely lead to compulsion or addiction.
Which brings us to the final thought for you, the listener.
Exactly. Now that you have a better understanding of the mechanics behind the hook model, how these habits are formed, How might you use this knowledge? Could you maybe apply it consciously to build better habits in your own life? Or perhaps use it to look more critically at the products you use every day, to understand the forces nudging your behavior, and maybe make more conscious choices about how you engage with them? It's definitely something worth pondering.
A lot to think about there. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the really fascinating and slightly scary world of habit-forming products. We hope you've gained some valuable insights into the hidden forces shaping our digital world.